Hello and welcome to the King's Court podcast. I am King Roberto, coming to you from the King's Lair this week. Last week we talked about some sports, how I came to like the teams that I liked, root for the teams I rooted for, and how I, made some questionable trades and decisions in my childhood, but that's neither here nor there. We did reach out to a couple of Canadians after the podcast there, had to send out some apology letters, told them that they should probably just not talk. Of course, that didn't sit too well with the Canadian group, so I did hear back from them, and I will say that some of the Canadians, you're good to talk, and some of them are just still not good to talk. If you're a kicker and you used to kick for the Colts, probably shouldn't talk. But moving on from that, we are getting into this week's podcast. And as you may or may not know, I sit down at these podcasts a lot. And that's really because I'm on the mend from an injury. I had the great pleasure of tearing my quadriceps tendon on July 21st, 2025. We're going to talk about that a little bit and how that whole thing has come about and how the recovery is going, and how you can't really keep a good king down. Part of the challenge with the injury is the recovery, and I'm sure that you'll soon find out that it is a challenge for somebody like me. But don't you worry, this isn't going to be a pity party, though. I'm not looking for your sorrow or your pity or anything like that. But I'm just looking to share a story with you. We may get to some laughs and some dumb stories and maybe a few lessons along the way. And as you know, if you've watched any of the medieval type of movies, every medieval type movie that has a king in it has a plot twist, right? It's part of the movie. There's something royal that happens and the plot changes and something goes crazy and sideways. And the plot twist for me is this injury. So the real question now is, now that he's down, how's King get back up and how's he get back onto the throne? Truth be told, I never left the throne. Even injured, you can't keep this king down. But let me tell you how it happened. It was a dark, dark day. The day that I tore my quad tendon. I'm just kidding. It's not that kind of story. So I had got back home a day and a half before, from spending a week up at a camp that I am an adult director for. I'm an adult director with 3 other adult directors. We have 23 adults that are at the camp. We have 24 junior counselors who are teenage kids, and then we have 100 or so kids between 9 and 16 running around that go to camp. And that is exhausting. So we had been there for about a week, came home Friday night late, spent the day Saturday unpacking, and me in my big mouth had told one of my friends who needed some help that I would help him on Sunday when I got back from camp. He had to put a new roof down. He was putting new shingles over his old roof, and he needed help doing it. And I'm a nice person, and I don't like to see people just struggle when I know that I know how to help them, and I can contribute some of my talents to people who need some help. I enjoy helping people. So me, being the big dummy that I am, went on down. Went down Sunday morning, got down there, jumped up on the roof. It was 110 degrees. It's like being in hell for a day. And if you've ever been on a comp asphalt shingle roof, you know when that sun hits it, it gets hot. So we were up there, and thankfully, not all day, but got a lot of the roof done. Come noon or so, lunchtime, it was getting hot. Everybody was getting cranky and tired, and we had made a good dent in the roof. And Ryan had told me, you need to get the hell off my roof. I said, why? What'd I do? He said, I'm tired of you being here. And he threatened to push me off the roof at one time. He said, get off the roof, or I'm going to push you down. I said, no, 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 you can't do that. So I got off the roof, packed up my tools, said goodbye to everybody. And it's part of the storytelling, all right? This is storytelling, so go with it. Ryan, if you're listening, I know you know that the truth is you tried to push me off the roof. That's probably how I broke my knee. But anyways, we'll get back to that. After I got off the roof, packed my tools up, got in the truck, and drove home. By then it was early in the afternoon, and I was tired. But we have our swim spa out back. It's a 15-foot long hot tub, and it's 6 feet wide, 4 feet deep or so, and it is great for exercise if you want to swim. It's a little too short to do a full freestyle swimming in it, so there's lots of breaststroking and backstroke and stuff like that. And the thing that we use the most with it is just floating. And I said, babe, because that's what I call my wife. I call her babe or hun or sweetheart or something along those lines. Something lovey-dovey, because that day I was not upset with her at all. So it wasn't anything bad. I've actually never called her anything bad because that would be mean. And I'm not a mean person. So I told her, sweetheart, I'm a little run down now. Been working all day long, sweating out in the sun. I think I'm going to go take a bottle of water. And yes, it was water. In fact, the bottle of water sat up there for 2 weeks after the injury, till it finally got cleaned up and put away. But I took the bottle of water and I said, I'm going to go float in the swim spa. And by now, it was maybe 4 o'clock or so in the afternoon. The hottest part of the day, of course. In the swim spa, we keep it about 80 degrees. So I took my bottled water, my towel, my sunglasses, and my ball cap, and went outside and took my trusty sidekick, Rooster, the royal dog, out with me, because Rooster likes to go outside, and I like to let him go outside. Because what dog doesn't deserve to be outside? Unless he's a little dog and runs away, in which case you should probably ask yourself why your dog is running away from you, but that's probably another story for another day. I got up, climbed the stairs, and got into the swim spa, and I have to tell you, it was lovely. Floating in the swim spa, had the jets going, just swirling around with the jets, going here, there, and wherever the current of the water took me. And after a while, I had probably half of my bottle of water by then, because I was wiped out. I was tired. It had been a long day working that morning, and it had been a long week before with all the kids up at camp. And I heard a yelp. Now, Rooster doesn't normally yelp, but sometimes he does. And what happens is he'll yelp, "Barr, barr, barr." And you call him, "Rooster, here. Rooster, here." A couple times, and he comes running. Except this time, Rooster didn't come running. In fact, Rooster was across the fence behind the manzanita bush, so I couldn't see him. And the manzanita bushes around us, it's thick, so there's no chance for me to see him unless I go over there and try to crawl through it and figure out what's going on. And our neighborhood is known for coyotes, bobcats, an occasional mountain lion. It's not uncommon to see these critters strolling through between our house and our neighbor's house. And when Rooster yelped again, it was the yelp of death. It was literally, "I'm dying, somebody help me." And it sprung me into action, because he's my dog, and he's my sidekick, and he's my companion, and I didn't want him to be hurt. So I leapt out of that floaty there, and it's, if you've watched the Avengers movies and you've seen Captain America or somebody like that leap off the ground and into the air, picture that. And that's what I did. I leapt out of the swim spa onto the top step of the steps going up to it, perfectly balanced. And as I kept going forward, I missed the second step down. And rather than gracefully flashing down the stairs and saving the dog, who was at this point still crying across the fence and on the other side being attacked by who knows what, I took a tumble. I didn't go backwards onto my keister. No, I missed that step just right, and it catapulted me forward. And if you've ever jumped from 3 feet or 4 feet up in the air and landed on your knee on the concrete deck, you know that it's not as easy as Captain America makes it look. You know, they got their move where they land on their knee and their one knee's on and they slam their fist into the ground, right? I was practicing that move, and it did not turn out well because I thought that I was a superhero that day. And to be honest with you, I probably am. It's just that I forgot my cape. And when you don't have the cape and you jump out of the swim spa and you do the superhero landing onto the concrete deck from 4 feet up onto your knee, it hurts. And when I hit the deck, I heard the crack. And I said, I'll be danged. I just cracked the concrete deck with my knee. And I looked down and my kneecap was dislocated off to the side of my knee. And I said, oh, snap. I didn't crack the concrete deck. The concrete deck cracked me. And it was immediately grabbed the knee. And after the initial shock wore off a little bit, the pain was excruciating. So I sat on the ground in my swim shorts without my cape, calling for the dog and calling for some help and at the same time, and straightened my knee back out because I knew that a dislocated kneecap wasn't going to do me any good. I was not going to get to a car to get to the emergency room or a hospital with a dislocated kneecap. That wasn't going to happen. So I straightened my leg out and popped the kneecap back over where it goes, but instantly felt a new kind of pain. A pain that I had not felt before, which was probably due to the torn tendon. Because when I hit the concrete, I heard the concrete crack. It was pop. It was a pop. You know, you could hear it. Pop. Whoa. Never knew I was so strong. Well, not quite. I'm 50 now. So when I turned 50, I lost a portion of my superpower strength. And the tendon popped. It was a 90% tear, come to find out. And when I hit the ground with my knee first, and I bent that knee and straightened it, got the kneecap back into place where it goes, and I had to bend it after that. I couldn't straighten it back out. It hurt like a son of a gun. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 12. That's exactly what I told the doctors at the emergency room. And at that time, I was screaming for the dog to come back and screaming for my wife to come outside and help me. As it turns out, she was inside. The door was closed. It was hot. I think I mentioned that. Hotter than hell. Yep, we were in Satan's house that day. And she was making dinner for me because she's a good wife. She loves me, and I've got her trained very well. So she had the pop, filling up with some water. She was gleefully barefoot in the kitchen, watching Pirates of the Caribbean on the television, filling a pot with water to make her king a kingly dinner. And when she looked up, she heard the noise. Screaming. Loud screaming. She looked at the television and said, I don't remember the Pirates of the Caribbean having so much yelling and screaming in it. So she turned off the water, turned down the sound on the television, and the screaming didn't stop. You know why? Because that was me screaming for help. And she said to herself, oh my goodness, that's King Roberto screaming for help. And he doesn't scream for help unless he needs help. And that's part of the lesson of the injury is, you learn when to ask for help and when you don't need help. But I needed help, and I knew I needed help. Well, she got up to me and said, King Roberto, King, my liege, what happened? I said, I dislocated my knee, and we need to go to the doctor. We need to go to the emergency room. She said, okay. Do you want me to call an ambulance? I said, no, just help me get there. She said, I cannot help you get there. I said, fine, call the ambulance. Now, I will admit that she has a slightly different version of that story, but we all know that my version is the truth. And the truth will set you free. And eventually she will accept my version of the story as the truth, because that is how it happened. So I said, no. If you can't get me there, then yes, call 911, get an ambulance coming. And so she did. At that point, I said, well, I can't go to the emergency room in my swim shorts, so go get me some shorts. And she brought me out a pair of shorts, and I said, do you have underwear for them? She said, underwear. I said, yes, underwear. I'm not going to go commando to the emergency room. So she rolled her eyes at me and said, fine, I'll go get you some underwear. And I said, and a shirt too, please. My bad for not being specific on the type of shirt, because sure enough, when she came back, she had the shirt and the underwear. And I had to make sure that it was an appropriate shirt to go to the emergency room, because some of the shirts I have are not appropriate for an emergency room. Needless to say, the fireman showed up with the ambulance and soon realized that my knee was messed up. Put me in the ambulance, and we went back and took a ride to the hospital. They gave me this drug called ketamine in the ambulance. Said, we're going to give you some ketamine. I said, okay, if it makes my knee not hurt, that's fine. Because at that point, my pain was still at about a 12. And we have stairs, so getting down to the ambulance was a challenge in and of itself. So it took 6 guys to get me down there, because, when you have the muscles that I do, I weigh a lot. And going down those stairs like that is not necessarily the easiest thing. So they got the IV started. They got me on some ketamine. And by the time I got to the emergency room, I felt like I was drunk off my keister. So that's what ketamine does to you. It makes you feel very loopy, very loopy. But I answered all the questions that they had correctly. I knew my name, my birth date, and who the president was, and what day of the week it was. So they said, this guy's good. Put me in the emergency room. Doctor came in, said, we got to do some x-rays. Brought an x-ray machine over to the bed. Did not have to go to an x-ray machine, thank God. They tried to straighten my knee out, and I said, you are not going to do that, because I'm going to punch you if you do that. They said, okay, we'll do it with your knee bent. So they did some x-rays. Come to find out, there was no tendon attached to my kneecap anymore from my quad. And there was a dip at the top of the knee. If you feel your knee at the top of the kneecap, you can feel the muscle connected to the kneecap and where it kind of stops and your kneecap gets hard. I didn't have that muscle anymore. It was a dip. The muscle was gone, and it went down into like a little hole behind the kneecap and then back up. Long story short, we got a MRI the next day. 2 days after that, not the next day. And it was confirmed it was a 90% tear of the quadriceps tendon, and the doctor said the only way to do that, to fix that, is surgery. And I was good with that. And so surgery was scheduled. The surgeon was a great surgeon. I will give him that. He was probably the best surgeon that we could have been assigned to for the surgery. I did some research on him, and he's the head of their sports medicine orthopedic group down at Kaiser in Sacramento. Did the surgery. Could not get it 1 week. We were trying to get it 1 week after, within the first week of the injury, but he was on vacation. So I said, all right, you can go finish your vacation, and when you get back, we need to do this surgery. He said, okay, I'll see you when I get back. So that's about how the conversation went, and came back, and we did the surgery. Now, I'm 50 years old, and I never had surgery in my life. So I was a little nervous going into it. And I had questions, and he answered the questions. And the day of the surgery, we get in there, and we get in the prep room, and the staff there is saying, okay, we got to get you done quickly and ready to go. And one of the things is they said, okay, take everything off and put on this gown. I said, Okay, took everything off except for my underwear and put on the ground. The doctor comes in and I said, they told me to take everything off. So I got everything but the underwear off. And he said, nope, that's got to go too. So I will tell you, if you ever have to have surgery like that and they say take everything off, they mean everything. You are bare naked underneath that gown. You've seen the videos of the people with the gowns on, their butts hanging out the back. Well, yep, that was me. So anyways, talked to the doctor there, got some information, talked to the anesthesiologist, and it was a good thing I did because the doctor at the time had said, after your surgery, we may do a nerve block on you. And I told the anesthesiologist that the doctor said they might do a nerve block on me. He said, oh, really? He didn't tell me that. I said, yeah, you need to talk to him about that. It's a good thing I did. And I got warned that anesthesia is one of those things. He said, we'll give it to you and we'll count to 10 and you'll go to sleep. And then you'll wake up and you'll feel like you were asleep for just a few minutes. But it'll be an hour or two later. And you'll be coming out of surgery. And it's true. Because sure enough, they gave me the anesthesia when they were wheeling me in there. And I went to sleep. And I woke up. And I was back in the recovery room. And I do not remember anything other than wheeling into the operating room, the OR, putting the gurney next to the operating table, and they helped me get onto the operating table, and I laid down, and that was it. There's nothing else. Come to find out, they actually strap you down and put you in like a very exposed position on the operating table, which doesn't make me feel too good, but I got nothing to hide, so I'm good. Anyways, came back after surgery. The needle that they do the nerve block with, well, first they asked, do you think that you need the nerve block? As I am emphatically nodding my head yes, it hurt like it was not the 12 out of 10, it was probably a 13 or 14 out of 10, because in the operating room they cut the last 10% of the tendon that was still attached, and it hurt bad. So I said, yes, give me the nerve block. And that needle is probably a 6-inch long needle that they stick into your thigh. And I got thick thighs because, thick thighs, and they save lives. So I got them. Anyways, they were intimidated at first. So he had to get a machine in there because he was worried that he was going to bend his needle when he stuck it into my thigh. They brought the machine in so they could see where the nerve was, because guiding that needle through that rock of a thigh that I have was something that was quite a chore. So they got it down to the nerve, and they gave me the nerve block, and away we went. That said, on the day of the surgery, I did have it in me to make an update to my followers on Instagram and Twitter that the King has had a successful surgery, and we were on our way home. Over the next couple of weeks, my wife had taken off work to help take care of me while I recovered. I was not cleared to go back to work, and I could barely get out of bed the first couple of days. And when that nerve block wore off, let me tell you, I'm not big on the opioids and the drugs they give you, but they gave me some Norco, and I jumped on that the day after when that nerve block started wearing off, because I realized just how much that hurt. My wife could not wait for the day that we unwrapped the leg, because it was wrapped in gauze and ace bandage at first, but the ace bandage kept slipping down the leg with the brace. They put me in the full brace, which is on today, and locked it straight. So I couldn't bend my knee, couldn't do anything, could not walk on it, could not put weight on it. I was on crutches full time for probably the first week or so. And then the weight bearing kind of eased off, and it wasn't hurting as bad, and I was able to start limping around. But when I needed to rewrap my knee with the ace bandage, my wife was dying to see the incision. So we unwrapped it carefully, and fortunately for me, the incision was covered still. They had a silver tape on it, because I guess the silver makes it heal better. And she was sad. She wanted to rip the tape off right there, and I said, no, cannot do that. Not taking the tape off my incision right now. She said, fine. I said, okay, I'm going to rewrap my leg. She said, would you like some help? I said, no, I got this. And she said, are you sure? I do this all the time. And I said, no, really, I've got this. She said, you know I'm a nurse, right? And I said, yes, darling, I do know you're a nurse. You're probably the best nurse on the planet. But I got this. That would go on for about 2 weeks. At the 2-week mark, I had my follow-up at the doctor, and that's when the incision got uncovered. The unveiling of the scar, as it would be. And she enjoyed that very much. And so she peeled the silver tape off and said, wow, that's amazing. I said, that is disgusting, because what somebody thinks is amazing, I think is terrible, because it is just not sewn back up very well. I mean, you know, you like it to be a straight line and nicely stitched back up together, but it's kind of jagged and looks a little Frankensteinish. So, I don't know. It's going to be a good start. During that first 2 weeks of downtime, it's a forced slowdown. You don't really have a choice. I didn't have a choice anyways. If you have knee surgery, though, or leg surgery, or major surgery that impairs your mobility and forces you to slow down, you slow down. And to be honest with you, that's when this podcast was born, during that slowdown time. It's where it all took off. It's time for reflection and gratefulness and appreciation of everything that you have or have accomplished. And it makes you really appreciate just being able to walk and get out of bed every day and stand on your own 2 feet. This is a forced time of patience, calm, reflection, and self-evaluation. There's probably people out there, actually there are people out there who I know when they go through surgery, they have a real hard time with the mental aspect of it. And for those people, I'm sorry. You are not alone, and I encourage you that if you are one of those people and you find yourself in that situation, ask for help, reach out to your network of friends and family, get the support you need. I am not one of those people. My mental fortitude is strong, and I told my kids before the surgery that, yeah, it's scary, but I'm going to come back stronger, and I am 100% committed to coming back stronger. My knee, my tendon, all of it will be stronger after this. I've gone through and done the research, figured out the proteins that are required around the repair site inside, how it builds the different types of collagen, and I've adjusted my diet to be a very high protein diet, which I was doing anyways because of where I'm at in life and my workout routine and everything else. High protein is something that I was already doing, so I just added some collagen protein to it and helped that regrowth and recovery continue on. The first meeting with the doctor after the operation, they loosened my brace to a 10-degree bend. And I don't know if you have ever experienced it, but walk around with your leg fixed, straight, unbendable for 2 weeks, and then get that 10-degree bend, and you don't realize just how much 10 degrees is until they give it to you after being fixed and straight. And it was such a relief to get that first bend, that first movement. And each week after that, it's increased a little bit from 10 degrees to 20 to 30, and now to today where I'm at 40 degrees. And they want you to get up to 75 degrees within 6 weeks, which is about 10 degrees per week. And if you go from 0, which is what surgery is, and that's when the repair is at its weakest, to 75, that's actually a big jump. There's a lot of intricacies of the surgery and how they stitch it up that I found fascinating, but I won't bore you with that. But it was a good time. And my wife has been a great sport throughout all of this. She has been my rock, my support. She's probably taken more crap from me than she should have over the time of the recovery, but I'm grateful for her and I appreciate her being there. I'm a terrible patient. I'll tell you that right now. I am not a good patient. I would not want to be my nurse. because honestly, I don't need help. And I don't need help, and I'm not going to ask for help unless I really need help. And if I do ask for help, then he needs help. And I think that she has learned that. And I've learned a little bit more to ask for help and to let her help when she wants to help. It is a fulfilling thing for her, and it's something small that I can do to help her feel better. And that's kind of just the adaptation of it all. There's an analogy that is out there that says what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Or if you can't laugh at it, if you can laugh at it, then it can't beat you. And so we tried to keep it fairly lighthearted with everything, nothing overly serious. It is a serious injury, it is a serious surgery, and the recovery is serious as well. But we tried to keep it pretty level-headed with it all and have fun with it where we can. Laugh at the stupidity of it, because honestly, the way that I got hurt is probably the dumbest way that you could have got hurt. It sounds a lot better saying that Ryan pushed me off the roof, because at least then it's like, oh man, that is traumatic. This is not nearly as exciting as that. So while this plot twist was unexpected, it's a setback. And in the King's Court, we make royal decrees now and then. I try to do one every podcast, so we'll come up with one here that says, in the King's Court, a setback is just a plot twist. The ending is still yours to write, and that's true with anything in life. It doesn't matter what might be thrown up in front of you at that day, at that moment, at that time. The ending and how it progresses is still yours to write. You have control over some aspect of what is in front of you, how you react to it, how you adapt to it. For example, there's been a video going around this last week of the Phillies Karen, right? This is a video. If you look it up online, you'll see it. Everybody's posting about it, and I know that the sports analogies sometimes don't resonate well with everybody, but this lady was at a Phillies and Marlins game. And the dad, there was her in this section of seats, and then over here was his dad and his son. And the dad wanted to get a home run ball for his son because it was his son's birthday. And sure enough, they hit a home run ball that's kind of between the lady and the dad. Well, the dad ends up getting the home run ball, holds it up victoriously, and takes it back to his son and throws it into his son's mitt, and they're having a moment. And this lady comes out of nowhere and confronts the dad and starts screaming at him. Tells him, you shouldn't have been in my section. That was my ball. I should get the ball. Just berating the poor guy. And if you read about it, you'll get all the details. But ultimately, the dad has a decision to make. He can engage with the woman, or he can give her the ball. And this is the plot twist. This is the setback that I'm talking about. You have a decision to make at that moment. How will you react? How will you handle the situation? And to his credit, he gave that lady the baseball from his son's glove. I am not sure that I would not have engaged with this woman and told her where she could go and just how far she had to walk off the end of that pier to get to where she needed to get to. But he didn't. He de-escalated it and probably set the better example for his kid, because this lady, after that or before that, I don't know which one it was, she had in another guy's face about the ball, and she's flipping everybody the bird. She's an entitled, obnoxious Karen. She's the Karen, and I'm sorry if your name is Karen, but she's the Phillies Karen. And that's just, there's no other way that you can explain it. It's unacceptable behavior. Unacceptable, unnecessary, it's rude, it's everything bad. But the dad handled it probably the best way he could. And when he had his plot twist, when he had his roadblock put in front of him, he chose to take the high road. And that's what I hope that I do when it comes to me. I hope anybody else will have the opportunity to do that as well. So little bit of recovery here, or recap here, sorry. So with that, we'll leave you with this. The recovery here that I'm going through is a physical recovery. It's also a mindset. It's learning patience and exhibiting patience. It's not just about the muscle and the tendon reconnecting and to the bone and everything else. It's being adaptable. In my case, it's learning how to walk with a brace that keeps your legs straight. It's learning how to go up and down stairs without falling on your face and killing yourself or doing more damage. And it's about trying to have the best attitude that you can through the whole thing. Being understanding, being able to forgive yourself. It's about making good decisions of how you treat others around you while you are hurting. And while you are hurting doesn't just give you a blank card to be a jerk to anybody. A lot of people want to help, and I get that, and I'm appreciative of that. That is very hard for me to accept, but I try. And where I fail, I'm sorry. I ask them forgiveness, and I hope that they can grant it to me someday. So if you've got a comeback story, or you want to share your plot twist, I encourage you to send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram or Twitter. Tell me about it, and I'll share a few in the court if I get any. The next episode is going to be released next week, and it's going to be leaving the plot twist and the injury behind and going outdoors. Because the outdoors is really where I like to be. Hunting, fishing, camping, anything outside. Soccer games, baseball games, football games, you name it, outside. We're going outside. That's the next episode. So take the time, if you like the podcast, subscribe, hit the button, click the button wherever you're at, so you don't miss the rest of the comeback tour, because this king isn't done yet. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and hope you've enjoyed the show. And if you have any feedback, please send me a message, however you choose to do so, and let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next week.